DrayZera Uncensored with our co-host Jack Hyde. Yo! Welcome everybody to another episode of DrayZera Uncensored with your co-host DrayZera, and of course I say co-host because I am not by myself, because we have got the mask-wearing son of a gun, the 8th wonder of the world, or the 9th wonder of the world, Jack E. Hyde.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Or the 11th or 12th or 13th or 14th, yeah.
Right. Speaking about creationism, we have got this bamboozle of a topic to talk about, of which it was Jack's idea for me to research. So this is the Anunnaki, the story of the Anunnaki. So, Jack, tell us, what the hell is the Anunnaki?
Apparently, the Anunnaki created the human race. And there's aliens and stuff.
So, I've written some notes in regards to, like, basically how it all began. So basically, there's this place called Samaria, which is basically an area that's now modern day Iraq, yeah, where them lot, they used to be the first world advanced civilization, but they were essentially Anunnaki, because apparently this is all via the research I've seen. The Anunnaki created the modern calendar within Samaria, so the modern calendar that we know by lunar cycles. They've done 60-20 counting systems for geometry and time. They've made the wheel, the plough, canals, sailboats, and they spoke the first human language. But then, Jack, tell us, why the hell do we not even talk about them? Like, apparently, if this is all led to be true, why doesn't history recognise this?
I don't have a clue, really. School's boring. They just want to start you off the cavemen and the boring stuff.
So you're telling, is there no subjects in school you liked?
Could you imagine being told that in school, though? Like, aliens created humans. God creatures.
I was just going to say, like, just on a side note, was there any subject in school that you actually liked? Anything?
Art.
Art. Fair enough.
Like, school.
Fair enough. I get you. Right, so basically, all this Anunnaki, yeah? So, one of the reasons, as on my notes, say that apparently they dismiss it as mythology, and also, interestingly, the Anunnaki has predicted the future. And here's one this is where the one of the most fascinating things about Anunnaki is, in 1849, yeah, we're going that far back. This is a bit before our time, Jack. In 1849, a British archaeologist found 14 tablets in Samaria, and it is the oldest known script in history, writing-wise. So, and also had a whole new spin on history, and so many ancient sacred texts that's basically been written. Like, for example, it noted the creation of Genesis, the Garden of Eden, aka Adam and Eve, and also talking about talking about how the Anunnaki are essentially polytheistic gods, aka aliens. And I'm like, yo, this whole documentary that I've been watching, that I'm taking notes of, that's like blowing my flipping mind. So before we carry on,
You've been watching.
Sorry?
You have to send me the one you've been watching.
Yeah, I'll send you the one I was watching, because what I did was, I did watch what you showed me, but the thing is, I felt that I had to check my own stuff, check my own shit, so that we can, like, bounce off different ideas kind of thing. Yeah, so, before we carry on, how plausible do you think this all is? Do you think it's too mad thing, or do you think there's some validity?
I think there is something to it.
Something to it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so here's an interesting thing. So, the first two tablets on this ancient text, we're talking about who are they, and where are they from? And tablet 3 to 6, tablet 3, we're talking about 6 days of the creation of Earth, aka the settlement, and explaining how the human race was genetically modified by these beings, and because apparently what was taught by us is that we just evolved randomly to, aka the Homo sapiens. But
Yeah.
yo, that's like, it is mad because uh, apparently 445,000 years ago, the creator of gods, aka the Anunnaki, came to Earth, and they were alien inhabitants, and they were like yeah, and they were like apparently wild and undomesticated kind of thing, and they were the
Yeah.
early ancestors of man. And yeah, and Anunnaki basically means those who are from heaven to earth, and by basically those who came from heaven to earth. And I'm like, yo, that's some deep stuff. So, so tell me, man. So when did you first discover about the Anunnaki in the first place? Cause I've literally been learning this on the week that we're just recording this. You know.
That was probably a few years ago. I was like heavy on my alien stuff. And yeah, I was just looking up like so much alien stuff, and that's one of the ones that always stuck out to me.
And yeah, so people are wondering where the hell did the Anunnaki come from. So I wrote down that they inhabited a planet called Nibiru, and it enters our solar system every 3,600 years, and
Yeah.
it is much, much bigger than Earth, and it has lots of iron oxide apparently, aka lakes, etc. is red. But here's the question: how the hell do we know about that? I'm assuming it's in the scripts, but I'm like, I don't think any of us have been to Nibiru. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
think it's from like the Mayan, like kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. So, according to the tablets, oh yeah, it probably came from the tablets. According to the tablets, Nibiru's atmosphere deteriorated, and they needed one item to help the atmosphere, which is gold. And one of the things about gold, and this is something that you probably know already, so gold has nanoparticles that helps damage ozones and helps against radiation, and them gold foils are used in the space station. Did you know that?
No.
So yeah, legit. So like obviously.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
Top of it.
Say that
Do you
again.
know what else has got on top of it?
Say
The
that last.
pyramids.
Oh.
They put gold, didn't they, on the top of the pyramids?
Oh shoot, they did.
Yeah.
I swear, like everything our recent podcast, we always go back to ancient Egypt. So
That's
like.
the way we looked at the ancient aliens the other day. They was all like, wow, back to Egypt. And that's just like every 10 minutes.
Oh my days, it's like mad.
They were on to something.
Yeah, so yeah, legit. Like, I just find it fascinating because, yo, apparently the price of gold have shot down. So you know, one of them Anunnaki is just gonna come back and be like, yo, we're gonna take all this. So
just wipe out all the leaders.
So yeah, so here's the mad thing about the Anunnaki, yeah? So the Anunnaki are able to live lives of hundreds of thousands of years, and then they created some sort of mining settlement in the Persian Gulf, and it's known as Eridug, which is translated to Earth Station, under the leader named Enki.
Whoa.
I know, right? And then he brought some other race, which is kind of like, it's called the Igigi, and they worked as slaves. So essentially, the Igigi were the Anunnaki leader's bitch. You know, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like how, in your opinion, I don't want to like put words in your mouth because I'm only basing on what I saw in DOA. I don't know if you feel that Hex has treated you as inferior, but let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. Shh. As you can tell, Jackie Hyde is very quiet about the Hex subject, so please stop DMing him about Hex, okay? So anyway, the Gigi rebelled centuries later, but to no avail, because the Anunnaki just almost completely wiped their race, and therefore the Anunnaki was left without like much workforce. So the Nibiru leader Anu told the son Enki to genetically create a new race, intelligent enough to do complex stuff and complex ideals, but subservient to the Anunnaki. So the result was the Homo erectus plus the Anunnaki transforms to the Homo sapien equal humans. And interestingly, the first men were known as the Adamu, and they were made to work in the mines. And I'm like, yo, this is all blowing my mind. Like, holy lasagna, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
What was women called?
I don't know. It wasn't on my notes, but I think.
Them are called Adamo. Do you think that's where the Adam and Eve thing comes from?
I think that's Let me double check with the notes. I'm assuming that's probably where the Garden of Eden theory came from. The story came from. Yeah. And also, and here's an interesting thing: the Anunnaki taught humans how to social skills, academic, and technology kind of stuff, which I find it very interesting. So, but here's the thing: so according to what I studied, they needed more humans, so they kind of recoded or genetically modified the original humans, the Adamu, in order to reproduce.
Yeah.
And here's an interesting thing. People are wondering, well, why are there so many people all across the world? So according to the Anunnaki story, many humans were actually banished, which basically plays a part with the whole Garden of Eden story, where, yo, you suck, get out, basically.
Isn't their DNA logo still used on medicine as well?
Say that again?
Isn't their DNA logo still used on medicine as well?
Oh yeah. But so basically, I think one of the things that really struck me, Jack, you showed me a picture or a clip of basically one of the ancient scripts of the Anunnaki tablet, where the top basically had the symbolism of the DNA symbol.
Yeah.
That really blew my mind. I mean, no lies. I was like, whoa, do you know what I mean? Like, that was proper.
Like, how back then?
I know, right? Exactly. So, yeah, so, I was going to say here, what was I going to say? Yeah, so here's the interesting thing is that there was one bit that I kind of like skimmed over, which basically we can bring back on. So, do you think that with the theory of Nibiru, because Nibiru is kind of like apparently a bit distant away from Earth, do you think that we'll see the planet Nibiru within our lifetimes? I don't know where the cycle is, but what do you reckon?
I wouldn't say it's not possible.
When was because 3,600 years ago? That's mad. When was? Yo, I just think my mind's just blown because so many things have happened in like that length of time. Because we're only in the year 2020 now when we're recording this, so like
we've done so much in like the past like under 100 years as well. Think of how much is going to happen in the next like. Think of how quick technology's come on us from the 90s to now.
Yeah. I mean, literally, when we were like kids, right? Not even when we were kids. I loosely remember flat screens being so exciting because we used to have them big box TVs and the big box PCs. And like, remember them big box PCs that like had holes right at the back?
Oh
big fat monitor. Yeah, before LCD was a thing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Oh my I remembered when I was like 7. Sorry, go on.
In school when they used to give you floppy disks and shit.
Oh my god, yes, I remember floppy disks. Oh my god, I got so annoyed that I didn't understand why I could only download like 2 songs at a time on the floppy disk because there's only like 3 megabytes is the limit.
Yeah.
That was funny. And then when USB sticks came about, they were like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!" And
now you even have like I don't know, sort of tiny things you can put in your pocket.
I know, right? It's mad. And these days I've got like I bought this like 5-6 years ago. I've got half a terabyte hard drive, and nowadays we can get like 4, 5, 8 terabyte, like so many gigabytes in one little like a pocket-sized device the size of a phone. It's mad.
Yeah.
No, it's mad. Say it again, Jack.
Technology.
I know, technology is mad. So, yeah, also Nibiru, the planet Nibiru is also known as the Destroyer. Now this This phrase came along in something called the Colburn, which was located in Scotland, saying Nibiru will return, a fire body of flames. Like, whoa, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you know about the whole story of Noah and all that? Have you heard of the thing called the deluge?
I'm not too sure. You have to say more about it.
You know what happened with Noah, yeah? Like Noah's Ark, when like the whole planet was flooded, and so Noah had to take like 2 of whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So apparently the deluge, which is known as the Great Flood, was caused by the Nibiru, because Nibiru was getting close to Earth, aka the magnetic. So the magnetic field, caused by the friction between Nibiru and Earth, basically caused like a huge rupturing of like the seas, apparently.
Yeah.
And many Anunnaki surprisingly chose to stay, but the main leader, Enlil, which is the brother of Enki, he went back to Nibiru, and the main Eden land. So basically, the mainland of, I'm assuming it's probably around the Samaria region, was buried underwater. And yeah, and that's apparently the whole story of Noah's Ark, where I think Noah was probably an individual where, like, this is all theory, by the way. Noah was probably like the guy that basically got 2 of like everything. But then I think to myself, how is that kind of logistical? Like, how heavy do you need that ship to be? It can't be a boat. It has to be a damn ship.
It has to be an alien ship. Spaceship.
There we go. There we go.
It makes sense as well. Say if I was back in like Mayan kind of time, why they had them step statues, they could have pumped their UFO from the top and then all gone up steps onto the UFO or something. I don't know.
That's a fair point. That's a fair, interesting point. So, and this goes back to the whole alignment stuff we were talking about a few episodes ago.
You think as well.
Go on.
You know how global warming's happening now, and all water's taking over the world again. Do you think it's slowly happening again?
I mean, for that to happen, wouldn't they have Nibiru like on lock, or do you think, like, on theory, do you think Nibiru could be like some sort of a bit like the Death Star in Star Wars, where they basically made it invisible?
Yeah. I reckon if we didn't have all the light pollution and all that, we'd probably see a lot more than what we do.
Yo, I'm just thinking, like... So, here's something that has also crossed my mind, because we're talking about this, and apparently, I think there was some sort of article by either NASA or the New Scientist, I'm not 100% sure where I read this from, but apparently, they were saying that they weren't like mentioning about specifically about, say, Nibiru per se, but they classed a planet, an extra planet in the solar system, or just on the edge of the solar system.
Yeah.
So essentially, and they were like researching about it, and I found it really, really interesting. But yeah, speaking of stars, the Anunnaki, right? This is based on what we'll talk about before. The Anunnaki built buildings according to the position of the stars. So many of the ancient monuments are aligned to the stars. Yeah, like basically, the whole, when you mention like how all the constellation, what was it? Were all the stars like? Were all the buildings like? Did they make the shape of Orion? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pyramids line up with Orion's belt, and what was the other one? There's another thing in there somewhere in the belt.
The constellation belt?
Yeah,
yeah, you're gonna double check. Okay.
Yeah.
While you double check, I'm also gonna mention that so the Anunnaki established monarchs. So apparently royal bloodlines are genetically modified so to have like nobility. So apparently that's why interbreeding was kind of like accepted, and the document that I watched theorized also that the Anunnaki may return and take over, which is kind of like a mad thing. So you found what you found?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
I don't know, the laptop's being slow.
God damn. Technology!
Technology!
Technology! Oh, man. I just find this topic absolutely mind-blowing, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you know? Okay, so, while he's still looking for that, or, like, waiting for your laptop to load up quicker than dial-up modem, do you honestly feel that, on the scale of 1 to 10, 0 being you don't believe in it, to 10 being, yo, this is 100% true, where do you fall on that scale, Jack?
I would say I want to believe in it.
I feel something's holding you back.
I don't know, you just don't know, do you? But I want to believe in it. So, I will say yeah, thank you.
Alright.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the scale of 5 to 6, mainly because why would in 1849 this archaeologist discover this and other documents from Scotland and perhaps across the world? There has to be something. So I'm going to lean towards 5 to 6. But I'm also a believer of seeing is believing. Now, obviously, none of us has personally seen the god leader Enki of the Nibiru Anunnaki, you know. But yeah.
Yeah.
You found what you founded yet? Jack?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
Okay. We're just.
So, yeah, it lines up with the pyramid of Lebanon, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the Great Pyramid of Tiamat.
You know, even with the fractional muffledness of your voice, I think you've done very, very well with pronouncing, man. Yeah. I know you hate pronouncing them long words.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, oh, man.
Of Tio to brother, I can't say the word. The Great Pyramid of the Moon, the Great Pyramid of the Sun, and the Pyramid of All
Yeah, man.
Such weird words.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I mean, is there any final words you want to say about the Anunnaki, man?
Everyone's going to have to do their own research because there's so much to talk about on it.
100%, man. 100%. What we're going to do, guys, is that for further reading, what we'll do is what Jack loves to do. He likes to send me various links for research, studying, and memes. So, but there won't be any memes. So, yeah. So Jack will give me links, and these links will basically be in the description below, so you can research more about the Anunnaki, and I'll also provide my links too of where my research has come from. So, right, guys, we have moved on to the next section of the podcast, and that is the interview with AndyNPoet. Welcome back to DrayZera Uncensored, and we have got the one, the only. He's from the north, but not too far up north. We have got ANdyNPoet. How are we today, Andy?
Rock and roll, Dre, and you, mate?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So yeah, so the reason why we have you on today is not only because the fact that I've been on your shows, but of course I feel that you know, you're a cool guy to talk to, and I think you've done so many podcasts on Spoken Label and various other mediums of which you keep talking about other people, but I think now's the time for you to actually be talked about.
Yay! Sounds good to me, yeah. Always been chatting to your buddy, you dead right. I do so many, like, it's, people ask, who are you? Oh, this is somebody else talking.
I know, right. So let's start from the beginning, right? So, what inspired you to start writing, and sorry, what were you saying? Are you okay there?
Sorry, mate.
You're good? Cool. All right. In that case, we'll start again. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode. It's not enough. Start again. Because this is like the second bit of the same podcast. It's fine. I can cut all this out. Alright, 3... Yeah, it's all good. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to DrayZera Uncensored, and we have got a very special guest. This man is from the north, but not too far up north. We have got ANdyNPoet. Welcome, Andy, to the podcast.
Hey, Dre. How you going, man?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. So, I thought to myself, apart from the fact that I have been in your podcast quite a few times, whether it's Spoken Label or the Wrestle Up podcast, but I also feel that you have talked to so many people and so many various walks of life in all your mediums. However, I feel that now's the time for people to know about Andy, to know about you, eh?
Yeah. You know what it is, mate? Sometimes I'm not shy and quiet. Everyone wants to talk to me, and everyone wants to talk about me, if that makes sense.
I get what you mean. So let's go right back to the beginning. So tell us how you started writing in the first place. I mean, was writing something that you did at a much younger age, or is that something that you picked up later in life?
I started as a child, actually, I did. First poem I got would actually date back to when I was 11, I believe. Yeah, I know, I was a little baby, little child, and I make you laugh, Dre. I actually got detention at school for that as well, I did.
Oh, really? Tell us the story.
Yeah. Well, second piece, the first.
The
second one was we ended up went on a school trip to Chester Zoo when I was 11. I lived over in I was living in Stretford at the time, and went up to Chester Zoo, and we got asked to write a poem at school the day after about our trip to Chester Zoo. And I got detention for it because I wrote a poem about when the lions were breaking out the cage and eating all the teachers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they didn't like it.
Well, was it quite violent, or was it kind of more tongue-in-cheek?
Violent. It was very violent.
Oh, really? So it's kind of like the kind of would you make that poem equivalent to, let's say, somebody listening to some death metal, thrash metal lyrics? Would you say?
Oh, 11. Probably not. But it was enough to upset the teacher that read it anyway.
Wow.
So I got a week's detention on that one.
So did that deter you from writing poetry, or did that spur you on?
Long story short, it was. I wrote little bits to the next 16 years after that. Okay. I went to Bolton University when I was 28. I wanted to learn how to write poetry. Did my degree there, and that took me into 2001. And I joined a writing workshop that I knew that somebody ran in 2006.
Okay.
I've been writing regularly in all kinds of it since then. So I said so. They've done 4 books to date now. First one was 2010. I've done, as you know already, I'm a podcaster. I started Spoken Label in 2016, and I'm heading towards 190 sessions now. And
wow.
I do ambient music. And I'm just a naturally busy man, till she read. So
I see.
So,
that's
one thing's always led to another with me, the natural progression. So instead of starting one project, I'll just take it at one, and then it end up being about 20 things going on at once. So
I see. Very busy. That sounds crazy. So tell me then, it feels like you've gone. Would you said that you've kind of gone through say, from the moment that you went to uni? So did you study creative writing, or did you study poetry?
I did creative writing.
Creative writing, and which uni was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, Bolton University.
Bolton Uni. Hey, Bolton. Wow. And you were literally at the uni, and you graduate. Did you graduate at 2001? Yeah.
2001. Yeah.
So that was during the days when Bolton were actually decent, eh?
Yeah, I'm saying nothing.
Here at the DrayZera UNCENSORED. Sorry.
I believe they're very good still, nowadays.
Oh yeah. Here at the DrayZera UNCENSORED podcast, any opinion is welcome. Well, except like very right wing or anyway. Anyway, jokes aside. So yeah, so interestingly, you went from uni and you did you did sort of like workshops. So you joined workshops. So did that mean that you kind of went through a traditional kind of route in order to define your poetic footing?
Yeah, I did it. After I left uni in 2001, I drifted away from writing for a few years.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't write, and I wrote about 3 poems in 4 years. I stopped after uni. Probably was a bit burnt out. And then I got into a writing workshop that somebody I knew ran, and I made a couple of friends from it. And after that group finished, we then ran our own workshop for 8 years with 200 people. So, and like I said, it's just the way it's gone. I've been writing and doing workshops, all kinds of things.
That's definitely cool, because I feel that it's interesting because you had a creative writing course, but then after you graduated, did that kind of burn you out, or did you feel you had other interests? I'm just very curious about that bit.
Well, I completely burned myself out, because I think you get to a stage when you're doing literally what I was doing at university. It was a case where I was working solid writing all the time, and after 3 years of it, I just didn't see where it was going to go next. I think at that stage, I got to what I thought was the end of it. I couldn't see myself carrying it on, and I ended up carrying it on, and 15 years later, now I'm still doing it, and it's part of my life now when I'm not in work.
I mean, it is interesting because you mentioned burnout. I mean, so I'll tell you this, right? So as we mentioned before in, I think, the first interview that we did way back in 2016, I mentioned, or 2016, and I think I it was either that interview or the interview actually coming up in a week's time when this comes out, of just me talking a bit about like burnout from my end. So when it comes which you guys will find out around. So what date is that coming out again? That's coming out in early June, isn't it?
I'm gonna put it out. I'll try and get it out around at the same time this one goes out. So
interesting. Right, so basically this will come. So basically, when this comes out around the 25th of May, then the podcast that we did together, talking about me, is coming out around the same time. Oh, that's very interesting. So that's exclusive news, guys. So mentioning about burnout, we kind of got sidetracked there. Yeah, mentioning about burnout. Do you not feel that, based on the amount of workload you have now? Is that a lot of work? Is there a potential for burnout, or do you have a nice mechanism, a kind of good system these days?
Yeah, the system's better on operating nowadays. That's for sure, because when I was at uni, I wasn't probably prepared for the amount of work I knew I was going to have to do. And nowadays, it's like, at the moment, certainly I'm working from home, so we're doing a job every day. And that's done by about 3 o'clock, basically, every day. And I'll start work at 7. And then it's a case of, I'll be honest with you, Dre, where I look for it is, my partner, Amanda, who you know, is a writer like me. And it works well for me nowadays. The pair of us are often doing all kinds of projects. And that is, we're always doing something creative. We don't have a television. We've got Netflix and Amazon, but we watch next to nothing on that. And we're both just working and things all the time. We just don't seem to stop. And it seems to be, at the end of the day, Amanda's got into doing mindfulness at the moment to help her wind down when she goes to bed. And I've started listening to very deep ambient music, like hour or so after I've wound down.
Okay.
You just need to calm yourself. And a lot of it is, you just knowing when to shut down at the end of the day, basically. And if you can train your body to do that and relax before you go to bed, you can get up the next day and just carry on again with it then. So, but I think it's the balance of how you balance your days out. Because did you know, mate, I'm not diabetic?
You're actually, are you type 1 or type 2, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm type 1.
Oh, type 1. Is that the one that you need to have insulin for?
I'm bizarre. Because I'm actually type 1.5, if that makes sense.
Okay, can you elaborate?
Well, when I got diabetes a year ago, it forced me to really be disciplined in how we use my energy. And I was on insulin for about 5 years. And then it moved me onto tablets. And it said I got some symptoms of diabetes type 1 and some symptoms of diabetes type 2. And this is the important thing to bear in mind, is when you're becoming diabetic, it forces you to reevaluate your life. And what I find nowadays, and this is why I can relate to you from burnout, was I've learned over that last 10 years how to basically manage my energy, basically. And I'm more active now than I was 10 years ago, if that makes sense.
So you feel kind of like, since you've made some lifestyle choices, you feel like you got a second lease of life in a way.
Yeah, that's what a lot of it is, really, because I've got to much more careful what I eat. I have to make sure I sleep more. And then, the thing to bear in mind is, certain if I got diabetes, I was going out on 3 or 4 open night nights a week on the Manchester Circus. Manchester, the area is open poetry. Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
many events on. I was doing loads of them. And when I got diabetes, I couldn't do it. So what I ended up having to do was, I had to manage what time I did better with a full-time job. I learned to, I do a lot of home projects and stuff that I can sit down in my armchair then and just rest in it. And the days then just turn my laptop on and go to bed. But if you're out all the time doing open mics here and everywhere,
so
you get to bed at midnight and you're trying to get out of work. You're worn out, aren't you?
So in that case then, since you were diagnosed as diabetic type 1.5, so to speak, by now do you just like say if it was just before the isolation period when we're recording this, did you perform like say once or twice a week, or did you just perform like a block and then you don't perform for a week? How did your structure work?
Right, nowadays it's tends to operate because I've got Amanda with me, and she's a poet and artist and writer like me. We tend to normally do about one a week, about 4 a month, and with occasional extra things on top of it. And then on top of all that, I said, I'm already doing podcasting. I said, and then I'm doing music on top of it as well. So it's like, a lot of it is, and I always find that if we're going to go out during nights anyway, I find if we're going to go out, we both go out straight from work.
Interesting.
And that way then, if you come home, I find you're not going to go back out. That's why, so it's a case of like, I want the job I'm at, well, try a virus. I was on Flexi. So what we used to do was we used to meet up, me and Amanda, and then go straight away, get some tea somewhere, and go straight out basically. So, like means like, so one night is near where my parents live, so we used to go to the parents once a month. And have tea there, sit to all the parents a couple of hours, and go to the night strip, and then go home after that. But there's another one where it's in the centre of Manchester, and we go straight from work to the pair of us, and then same with the other ones as well. So just how you practice what I mean. There's work-life balance around there, I think.
That's pretty interesting, because for me, it's interesting because obviously the idea of getting back home after an end of an evening of a spoken word evening or a performing evening, that's always ideal. But for me, because I've barely experienced that because of where I live and the fact that I just love to travel, I never have that opportunity to literally go back the same night because travel to where I live, it's neon impossible when it's late at night. If you're coming back on the same night, that's not really possible. So I kind of gotten used to the whole kind of just performing and then staying at either someone else's place or staying at some accommodation. So I find that fascinating because I don't know if I'm ever going to have that in my life where I can just go back to a place of home afterwards. I mean, it sounds nice, but yeah, I mean the way I do it, because what I've been doing even in this online era of performing, because we're all stuck at home, is that so what I've been doing is I perform like a bunch of events across a week. So say on average I perform like 3 to 4 times a week, but then the next week I don't perform at all. So basically that gives me the flexibility to, for example, so what I tend to do is, so you've noticed that I upload like something every single day, right?
Yeah, I have noticed that. You're very, very prolific with that, certainly.
Yeah, and what I actually do, and I'll reveal, I don't mind revealing this, is that every one of my uploads have already been sorted out more or less for the rest of May, for example. So everything's so I basically do batch recordings, but then I upload them not like immediately. I basically structure it out a bit like you with your spoken label stuff. But I structure it out so that I can look busy online, but in actuality, I am actually having a bit of downtime, a bit of relaxation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it, mate. It's a good diagram. It's always a good tip if anyone's into like you do an awful amount of podcasting. My case is like at the moment I wouldn't want to do one a day, it's too much. But I'm having to spend on the spoken label because we're in lockdown. I'm doing more because the opportunity is there. certainly pre-lockdown, I used to do, say, spoken maybe one a week, and I have a backlog of about 6 or 7. Now at the moment I'm doing 2 a week, and I've got about 18 pending, so it's going to be a while before I get through all that lot.
But that's content at the end of the day, because like so with spoken word videos, me reviewing stuff, the DrayZera UNCENSORED podcast, so many like other things that I do with the second channel as well. I just make sure that I get my plan in place. I'm going, even though when this comes out, it'll be nearly June, but by that time, I would have had some sort of structure in place with the whole June schedule kind of thing. So I find that so that's kind of interesting for me. But yeah, so let's talk about your poetry a bit, because we mentioned about the kind of like your story behind how you've come into poetry, how you're doing open mic. So let's talk about your poetry. So you've released, if my maths are correct, you've released four main collections. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And what are, and tell the audience in chronological order, what are they? And of course, we'll just state which one, like what is the title of all your books, and but we'll divulge into it further.
Yeah, sure. First book came out in 2010, was called Return to Kemptown. It took, that was at the time of, that was that, I think you find when you do your first book sometimes as a writer, in case you want to get your greatest hits out there.
Okay.
And at that point, it was a lot, that was more performance-based poetry. Not necessarily comedy, it was more performance-based.
So basically what I want to do, I want to like break down each one. So you mentioned Return to Kemptown. So for all those that have no idea what Kemptown is, what is Kemptown? What is go on.
It's a little district on the outskirts of the centre of Brighton.
Brighton?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
At that time. Yeah. Because I went up, I knew somebody down there at that time that was massively into Buddhism, and it came for quite a few years afterwards because I stopped speaking to that person.
Okay.
And her boyfriend was a good mate of mine. So basically, he took me down to the Buddhist temple along in Kemptown, and it was where I did a lot of like big spiritual reawakening on myself. And that's why I like to call it the Kemptown. But I would have turned to it in my dreams for years afterwards. And every time I needed to go back somewhere just to revisit myself, basically.
Okay, so is that kind of a spiritual home for you? Because I'm now looking at Kemptown, and I have been to Brighton a few times, but I never really noticed Kemptown. So essentially, for example, right, if I'm in like central Brighton, right near where like the main beachfront of where Brighton is, how much do I have to walk down to get to see below quote unquote King Cliff? Because I'm now looking at some articles about Kemptown. So how far do I have to walk down to get to Kemptown?
About half an hour.
Half an hour down the beach.
Straight, and then do a left and go straight through the lanes and keep walking straight down. Where the Buddhist temple used to be, I think it's still there, is about half an hour, 40-minute walk. It's gettable. It's very gettable.
Don't worry. I've probably walked further back in my early days of house parties. So don't worry about that. So all right. So tell us about the second book, and talk about your second book and how you perhaps developed from book 1 to book 2.
Yeah, this is the business. You'll find it interesting because I know you've done one book yourself, and obviously I'm expecting a second one of you fairly soon, but obviously that's for you to reveal. But it took me 5 years to put the book up, actually, to do a second book at the end of summer. And what happened with that was, the Return to Kemptown was wrote in about 6 to 9 months. It took me longer as a writer to do the second book, because I'm always a believer when you do books, each book is a different language, it develops at its own pace. And when I got diabetes in the end of 2011, it forced a re-evaluation of my life. And it took me 4 years to find the voice in that book, because I don't know what you believe in life, Dre, but I'm a believer in life is an 80-year cycle, where I've always done this with a kid, treated spring as the first 20 years of your life, 21 to 40 as summer, 41 to 60 as autumn, and then 61 to 80 as winter.
I mean, that's a very interesting point, because I'm 30 at the moment, so with me, I think of life as, say, I'm a big fan of, say, I don't know, Arrow, like the DC comic series Arrow, right? And I think of every season as a year. So in my life, right, I think of, I'm 30, so I'm in season 30 of my life, right? So for example, every year you always get people in your life and people out. So like new characters, old characters coming back, all that kind of stuff. And so I think of it like that because because that is a very fascinating philosophy because I guess I think it's a bit harder for me. Not I wouldn't say harder, but it's different for me because I haven't I'm in the middle of spring using your analogy. You know what I mean? Um, if that makes sense. But I will. But I will say something very important. Sorry to interrupt. I will say something very important. I will say that you do. I do fully agree with you that I think my life in terms of how things were slowly opening up, I think that properly began when I was 22. So maybe your point does bring credence, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's an emotional development in any sort of life, anyway, whatever number you look at it. But the indication at the end of summer is I wrote that book started really, and it led into the first book was on the water. But the book's on the same journey where as soon as I got diabetes, I was 39. It made me think of myself that I've reached the end of the summer of my life early. So that book is basically looking back at what came before. That makes sense.
Okay. And how would you say from book one to book two, how do you think you've developed your writing compared to book one?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's a couple of major points of book two, and that's book one itself is more long-winded in what ways. You'll find if you read book two at the end of summer, there's poems a lot more sparser in it, and it's a much harder book to perform. Actually, it is. I mean, it works well, but it's just different language. And where you find that where you use similes and metaphors and stuff, they're much more sparser than they were in the first book. The first book tells a lot of stories. The second book tells stories, but with much more slighter, concise pieces. So that's why it took me 5 years to write. I wrote about probably about over 250 poems in the book, and I narrowed it down eventually to 50 poems because I had to have that period where I had to learn what I wrote before. That makes sense.
So when you say learn, do you mean like learning to recite them without looking at a script, or was it learning in a different way? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. It's the way you write. I think it's every book is a different language itself. And on the second book, I had to define the language of that book. And when I started writing it, I knew it was going to be a different book to the first book. And I could have rushed it out in a year, maybe 2 years. But the book felt unfinished to me for always. I needed to take time and let that book find its feet. It did me, really, eventually.
I see. So you're saying that every book that you've made has a different kind of characteristic kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the point behind it, yeah. Any writer you'll find that will say that. It's not the case of every book the same. It's not. Every book has to be different. Otherwise, you're standing still as a writer. I think as a poet, you've always got to be moving forward, moving in a different direction, whichever direction on the road you go, basically.
I mean, the way you said that is kind of like the analogy of, say, I'll throw you an example. So a band like Slayer, one of their biggest criticisms is that every album more or less sounds the same. Whereas if we were to use an example like, nearly everyone knows Metallica. So Metallica is an example. Even though their direction may be, perhaps to quite a few people, they're not happy with it. However, regardless of their musical direction, they've always tried something different with their art. So you can extrapolate that to books, can't you?
Yeah, that's the point. So it's a good point now. And I think that's why I agree with you in that one. That's what you do. It's you can't let Metallica have had a couple of occasions where they've had quite long gaps between the albums, and it's whatever reason they need to find that direction they need to go next. Sometimes you'll find with some things that it'll come quickly as a writer, and other times it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's why. Because the third book that came along 2.5 years after.
Yeah, but let's talk about the third book. Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was called The Birth of Autumn, and that was it was a different book, but it was a consolidation of the ideas of the second book. Because if you look at the end of the story, you're looking back at life. The birth of autumn is like looking over the gate, see what comes next. So I used a lot. Its case of that was, the imagery, the way he used summers is quite similar to the second book, but he's looking forward and looking backwards all the time in that book, and that's why it stands out as quite a different book to me altogether.
And so yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned autumn, and that's literally you're talking about the cycles of life based on what you said, and I just find that pretty, and not to use a kind of like a cliche of what we're talking about, I find that quite poetic actually.
Yeah, I think it is. It's the poetic side of it as well, because it's you can write about autumn and summers and stuff and seasons and describe that sort of thing, and you can take it in different directions, and you look at how it relates to you as a person, and that's what both of those books have done really. It's took me in a different way of writing than I originally thought it would. I didn't think I'd end up 10 years after doing Return to Kemptown book, I was doing two quite deep philosophical books about nature based that interspread my own life.
And it just shows you that, like, in life, you can be inspired by completely different things. So I'll tell you this right now. So I've gained quite a bit of inspiration and intrigue by the kind of spiritual world more recent years, and especially more recently because I've been looking or talking more about palmistry, which is basically palm reading using your hands, and oracle cards, which uses like oracle cards and about and all that kind of stuff, and predicting the future and that kind of stuff, and the universe. And I find that kind of stuff pretty fascinating. However, I would say that while I always had a slight interest in that kind of stuff, I would say from the first book I made, Broken Circuit Board, I would have never even like properly touched on it, if that made sense.
Yeah. Does completely do. It's everything. I think it's for a pattern sometimes for a reason. That's why. So yes, quite interesting. Certainly so. And do you want to know about the fourth book? And this is one where I went off on a tangent actually.
Yeah. Your fourth book. Yeah, do talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the fourth one was the one that when I wasn't expecting this, because after doing the third book, the initial reaction was to do a book about winter, and that's still on the go at the moment. That'll be done next year, I reckon. But I ended up with a load of quite short poems, probably about 100 in total, that have been wrote in between the longer pieces of the.
Okay. So these are like B-side copies in a way, yeah.
Yeah, tiny little pieces. They're almost like flash fiction, told in poems under 8-9 lines each. And when I was going through after finishing the first autumn book off, I was going through and I thought to myself, there's a book here. That's why it's kind of told itself. That's why it took me a bit to get it together. But I said that's where it came from, by natural progression. Like writing these tiny pieces, let me take a break before I head on to the next circle.
So you're saying that your fourth book kind of ties in all the work you've done in your previous books in a way.
Yeah, I think it does. Because it's tied in. There's a lot in the streets of all we see. It's a lot of like tiny observational pieces about poems by people, and there's quite a lot in there touching the season. Certainly, quite a lot of autumn and summer poems in that. But they're that short when you read it. Sometimes they're very funny. Sometimes they're very, very quite quirky as well, and they want the sort of design that make you want to go back and look at it again. It's one where you've got to spend time reading it. That's why where some books you can read and the poems are like 4 pages and you've read it, you understand it. This is one where I wanted to try and do it, where people were reading it and thinking, that's short. I like it. Let me read it again. And it makes you want to read it 2 or 3 times. You get the meaning and the full expression of it.
So would you say that your latest book is kind of more experimental, would you say? Like more of a kind of like a real stab in the dark of completely, not, I wouldn't say out of your comfort zone, but a complete different way of you creating the circuits of your works, would you say?
Yes, I would actually. Yeah, I would, because It's like I said 40, and as a writer, you've got to keep constantly pushing on.
Mm.
And when I finished up the third book, and most of these were done after the third book, it made me think, this is a side step, and it didn't go like left and right. But sometimes it's good if you go in a direction like expected, and that's what this book's done. It's took me in a different direction. And in a lot of ways, it's a good direction because it sidestepped things I didn't expect it. And looking at the pieces in it, they're an actual continuation of what I've done before, the second and third one.
Yeah, that's pretty deep and interesting. So, all right. So as we are kind of winding down towards the end of this podcast, I have 2 questions for you. 1, what would you tell your former self of 2001 what you know now? And question 2, tell us all your socials.
Sure. Okay, what I would have told the writer in 2001 at the time would have been is, I would have got, why didn't you get into this path quicker? But again, I needed that at the time, so I would have told him now, just carry on the path you're going, and you would eventually have got to where you are now. Certainly, and it's like I said, it's a journey, and that writer in 2001 wouldn't have been ready to do what I'm doing in 2020, I don't think.
Because he needs a lot of character building, would you say?
Yeah, you need time to let them find the path sometimes. I mean, some writers can find that path when they're in their early 20s. In my case, I'm 48 now, and it's probably to 45 to find the path where they need to go.
I mean, Stephen King, like authors such as J.K. Rowling, Stephen King, Tolkien, like very Isaac Asimov, all them kind of authors, they didn't hit their prominence until much later in their life anyway, so Yeah,
that's what I think I'm heading into now. We're starting to hit the territory now to go, the real breakthrough. And that's why I'm looking forward to the next 20 years, find out what I'm going to be. That's
awesome.
Anyway, social time.
Your socials, man, you go for it.
Yeah, okay. My website is a blogspot one, and one that the lump wrote in the letters, one writer and his PC, full stop, blogspot.com.
Just bear in mind, Andy, that we'll also have them at the description below in case people didn't get that. Okay.
Yeah, good. I didn't know that.
And that's all good.
And you can also find me on Facebook as Andy N. Storyteller Poet. And that's the thing at the top, or just Andy N itself.
That's all good. Cool. Right, okay, guys, so we have reached the end of the podcast. My name is DrayZera, and this is our guest, AndyNPoet. Any final words for you?
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll and lemon stroller. Tune in next time for another episode of DrayZera Uncensored. Take care, guys. Bye.